and welcome to the third of these planning and preparation videos. This time we have just got, the players have got to the village of Truggleshythe and they went hunting off instead of returning with the Duchess, which is sort of what I expected them to do. As in, I expected them to return with the Duchess. I wasn't expecting them to head off and explore the village. But then we introduced this character of Colorath, who was introduced completely on the fly. This is a character that did not exist before. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the way that I do that. And here I'm thinking in terms of the game in the show. We have this kind of weird dichotomy here between the game in the show and then the game in the actual game. So in the show, the plot is necessarily very simple because it's all about these characters, these kind of reality TV characters who are playing effectively a very simple fantasy LARP with very high production values. Most of the team involved in this have helped run LARP events. We're all old school LARPers, as you've probably heard from other things we do. So there's actually a pretty good understanding in the group of the challenges of this. One of the challenges is if your plot is complicated, your players probably won't get it. So this is going to be quite a simple plot. That works well for me as GM because there's actually a more complex and subtle plot going on in the background with the return of magic. That's sort of happening here, and that's a lot of the questions of this game. So if we're looking at what's happening now, we have to start asking, what is Colorath's deal? Colorath is a character I added on the fly because the players were doing something I wasn't quite prepared for. So I was like, oh, they need to meet someone significant and a bit scary. And it's a great opportunity to introduce a major antagonist, probably the right hand of the Dark Lord, which is quite a fun thing to be able to do. Ideally, it's nice to have prepared that a bit ahead of time, but I hadn't. So I was just putting it together. I was like, okay, this guy kind of is Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII. That was most of my thinking there, but that's fun. He's the herald of something, maybe the herald of night, maybe the herald of this, the herald of Dark Court, or whatever the Dark Lord's group is called. And we're probably going to need to know that now. So my preparation went as far as the ambush on the way down the hill, which is where I thought we'd probably get to, either the start or end of that. But instead, we wandered off and we heard it had been triggered, which is great. That's a very fun tipping point in the story. So they have met this sinister guy. They followed a trail of transformative magic to get there. That's interesting, isn't it? Like, was that the only trail? Could they have done something else? Do the showrunners now know that they were following magic? Why was Colorath doing magic at all? Why was transformation magic actually happening when this appeared to be a set? There's a lot of interesting questions here. And to let you understand a bit about my GMing process, I do not know the answers to any of these. I have no idea. I'm as in the dark as you are. And I like that. Like, right now, I can answer those questions anyway. And so that freedom gives me a lot of space to move. If I make a hard decision, then I'm stuck with it. But nothing is fixed until it's appeared on screen in the game. So I can keep those loose. And while they're loose, I can think about them. This is the kind of stuff I think about when I'm going to sleep. I'm like, okay, what might these characters be? And that gives me some vague outlines of ideas. And then sometimes I think of something better. Sometimes one of the players will be like, oh, is it like this? And you're like, I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that sounds brilliant. So, yes, we want to, and if the any of the players have a better idea than I do, that's rad. I love it. I love when that happens. So, what I'm really interested in with a character like Colorath is making them look cool, making them sound kind of a bit sinister and a bit of a, whoa, this guy's going to cause problems. And then we'll figure out what problems he can cause later. There's bound to be some because he's an anime villain with a big katana and long hair. Like, no way that's not going to cause problems. But again, he's a character from the Fantasy Castle game. So he's a character in the world. And that's important too. We're going to see like those characters have to be more overstated because they're kind of LARP villains. If it's too subtle what they're doing, the players won't get it. Not our players, but the in world players won't get it. And the people running it also don't really know much about fantasy as a genre. So they think it has to be very obvious and very overstated. You know, they haven't read The Spear Cuts Through Water or The Saint of Bright Doors. They have maybe read a David Gemmell book. So, and that's only the ones that have really gone off piste. Most of them have only read Legends of the Rise. Apparently, David Gemmell does exist in this universe, though. David Gemmell equivalent. Uh, I was trying to think of a fish that was close to Gemmell. David Gernard. No, it doesn't work. Never mind, forget I spoke. I would edit that out, only that would be work. So, yes, I don't know what Colorath's deal is. I expect during the next session we will confront the ambush. There will be a bit of a battle against Skelebarians and their skitterers. And then we will get back to the castle. So the other two parts are, I think the Duchess will retire to her rooms because it makes more sense that they'd want one of the, as it were, players to be. It's very confusing when I'm talking about players, and I mean the players in the game, and also then the players in the game, out of the game. You see my problem. But the NPC or PC players should be breaking this news to the Merry King because that makes for a more dramatic scene. So, given that, I need to have an idea of what will happen there. I typically do pre-write the Merry King's speeches when he gives a speech because I'm not the most dexterous person at improvising what's going on for like a noble speech. There's a lot of things I can improvise, but they're a hard ask, so I prefer not to. So the Merry King's response will probably be, it's only going to be 3 or 4 sentences though, and he's going to tell them about the Dark Court or whatever this court. You know, it's not just a Dark Lord. There's like the Lord and the Vizier and the General, and the Herald is Colorath. What marks them out? I haven't decided yet. They will probably have a name, and the name will probably be very related to the name from Legends of the Rise, but I haven't established what's in that yet either. There are huge gaps in all this preparation, and that's okay because until it's fixed, it doesn't matter. We can move it. And this is very much when I say draw maps, leave blanks, I also mean that in terms of preparation. Prepare a few keystone things, prepare things you know that will happen. So the Merry King's conversation with them will happen. The other thing that I'll prepare is probably bench that wench, which we've talked about already as being one of the challenges they'll have. And that's going to be a truly stupid activity. Evening activities on reality TV shows are seldom non-stupid. And I think this is going to be one of the ones that's very stupid. Probably going to involve a seesaw. These things are basically things that I'm very confident will show up sooner or later, so I might as well prepare them. Everything else I can think about, keep it on a back burner, and most importantly, I make notes when I run a session so that then I can go back afterwards and see what happened last time. That's the one critical thing that lets me do this, because what I need is forward consistency with what happened previously. And obviously, I can't be forward consistent if I don't know what happened previously. And along with that, I could watch the videos, but that's a lot of effort. I generally listen to the podcasts afterwards, and that's kind of my way of keeping up with what happened a while back. But the podcasts are usually a little behind what we're actually releasing. So I hope that gives you a bit of a picture of how loose I keep a lot of this stuff. If necessary, I can improvise and get to something. If I'm in doubt, I can ask the players, what do you think happens here? What do you think this person's deal is? What do you think the connection is between these places? And they're going to come up with good ideas too. Once you know you can trust the people you're playing with, you've got a lot of space to actually improvise together. And that can really give you that fun sense of discovery, which is a big part of what I wanted to incorporate and encode in this game, because that's such fun to have in your play. So I hope that's helpful to you. And let's see what happens in the session. Catch you next time.